Thank you, Megan. Welcome to the webinar, Empower Chromatography Data System Validation, the next phase. As Megan introduced me, my name is Michael Barkan. I am a senior informatics consultant with CSOLs, and my specialty is strategic consulting, validation of both LIMS and chromatography data systems. I've also worked on acquisitions where laboratories need to be integrated together and harmonized, and that process can be difficult at times. I've been a consultant now for 6 years, and I've worked in all major industries: consumer, pharma, biopharma, petrochem, chemical, food, etc. And previous to that, I have over 20 years of experience in an FDA-regulated pharmaceutical laboratory in the informatics branch of those laboratories. I have a master's in chemistry. I'm a Microsoft certified system engineer. I've been trained on and given courses on data integrity and pharmaceutical compliance. I also serve and wear another hat as CSOL's corporate quality manager. I am a documentation specialist. I've been a chromatography data system global system administrator, and I've also been a LIMS administrator. So it spans the gamut of laboratory informatics systems. So today's webinar, we're going to be discussing the differences between an initial implementation of Waters Empower chromatography data systems and transitioning also from an older system to a newer one. So we're going to cover a lot of different things in that area, especially when you've implemented a new system, how it can grow as your company grows. We're going to talk about how to harmonize the intended use of your Waters Empower chromatography data systems. We're also going to speak to introducing new functionality, but when you introduce new functionality, you're going to have to do it with a risk-based approach because you are working on a live system. And also at the same time, leverage vendor validation documentation. We're going to talk about the impact of your instrumentation and your firmware versions. And we're also going to mention how CSOLs can support you in validating your system because the vendor can only go so far. And we're going to go into some more details around that. So a lot of companies implement their Waters chromatography data system Empower, and it's complete, and they have the vendor do a huge part of that implementation and validation. But once it's turnkey and you go live, there are additional activities that need to be performed, and we're going to talk about a lot of those. One thing that's independent of your chromatography data system is harmonization of your policies. What if you have multiple labs or multiple sites and they do things in a very different way? When you're using a single enterprise version of one system, you need to reach agreement on certain practices and policies within those systems. It could be things like naming convention or significant figures or calculations, but those things have to be agreed to. And there are some non-vendor activities such as agreement on your methods and how you're going to report data. You also, as you learn more about the system and you have more sites or more departments that join your system, you may need to refine your roles, your user types, based upon those sites or those departments. And in addition to that, as you learn more about your system, you may want to refine your reports. It may be something as simple as adding a logo, but it may be as complex as you have certain custom calculations that need to be reported on that turnkey from the vendor are not supplied. And then there are some advanced features that I'm going to discuss later on. But ultimately, it all boils down to generating a mature chromatography data system. So let's talk about firmware compatibility. When the system goes live, you have your